I'm Patrick, 63. My son tried to control my money, and then he found out what I had quietly prepared. Dad, starting next month, we'll transfer all your money to my account, he said. I just smiled. That night, he and his wife came for their usual free dinner, but when they walked into my house, both of them screamed in shock. Before I tell you what happened, please like this video, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. You know what kills me? It wasn't supposed to be this way. For 37 years, I worked double shifts at the plant. Overtime, every weekend I could get. My hands are still scarred from the machinery. My back still aches when the weather changes. Every dollar I saved, every sacrifice I made, it was all for him, for my son Michael. I thought I was building something beautiful. I thought I was being a good father. Every Sunday, like clockwork, Michael and his wife Sarah would show up at my door at 5:30. Not 5, not 6. 5:30 exactly. They had it timed perfectly so I'd have dinner ready and waiting. Hot food on the table, clean plates, everything perfect. Did they ever bring anything? A bottle of wine? A dessert? Even a loaf of bread from the store? Never. Not once in 8 years. They'd walk through my front door like they owned the place, and maybe that's because deep down, they thought they did. Sarah would settle into my recliner, the one I saved for months to buy myself after retirement, and Michael would head straight to the kitchen to see what I'd prepared. "Smells good, Dad," he'd say, but there was never any gratitude in it. It was expectation. It was entitlement wearing the mask of appreciation. I'd serve them like I was the hired help in my own home. Fill their plates first, make sure they had everything they needed, refill their drinks before mine. And what did I get in return? Lectures, advice, condescending little comments about how I should be managing my life. "Dad, you really should get a smartphone. This flip phone is embarrassing." "Dad, why don't you upgrade this old TV? The picture quality is terrible." "Dad, this neighborhood is going downhill. You should really think about moving somewhere safer." Always telling me what I should do, how I should live, what I should want. Never asking what I actually needed or how I felt about anything. Never noticing that I was eating the smallest portions so they could have seconds. Never seeing that I was wearing the same 3 shirts in rotation while paying for their dinners week after week. You want to know what really broke my heart? One Sunday, Sarah actually said to Michael, right in front of me, like I wasn't even there, "Your dad's cooking is getting better. Maybe we should start coming twice a week." They laughed. Both of them laughed, like my time, my effort, my money was just a joke to them. But I kept doing it, week after week, month after month, because he was my son, because I thought this was what love looked like, because I was afraid that if I stopped, I'd lose him completely. So I worked my modest pension magic, stretched every dollar, made sure there was always enough food, always a warm house, always a welcome for them. The house I've lived in for 28 years isn't much, but it's mine. Every mortgage payment, every repair, every small improvement, I did it all with my own hands and my own money. It's not fancy. The carpet is worn, the paint could use touching up, and yes, the appliances are old, but it's paid for. It's solid. It holds my memories, my life, my independence. Michael used to say things like, "Dad, when you're gone, this place will need so much work before we can sell it." When I'm gone, not if, when. Like he was already planning my funeral, already calculating the profit. It should have been a red flag, but I was too caught up in trying to be the father I thought he needed. The disrespect was subtle at first. A tone of voice when he'd explain something simple to me, the way he'd sigh when I asked questions about technology or modern banking. "Dad, let me handle this. It's complicated." Always treating me like I was confused, like my 63 years of life experience meant nothing. "You know, Dad, at your age, you really shouldn't be worrying about all these bills and financial decisions. It's too much stress for someone in your situation." My situation. Like being 63 meant I was mentally incompetent. Like the man who worked 47 years, raised a son, paid off a house, and managed to save a modest nest egg, was suddenly too feeble-minded to understand money. But the worst part? I started believing them. Started second-guessing myself. Started thinking maybe they were right, maybe I was getting too old to handle my own affairs. The gaslighting was so gradual, so persistent, that I almost didn't notice it happening. Almost. Then came that Sunday in March. I'll never forget it. I had made pot roast, his favorite, with mashed potatoes and green beans. Everything was perfect, timed exactly right, still steaming when they walked in. They ate like they were at a restaurant, making small talk, barely acknowledging the effort I'd put in. After dinner, while Sarah was in the living room scrolling through her phone, Michael pulled out a manila folder. My stomach dropped. I knew before he even opened his mouth that whatever was in that folder was going to change everything. "Dad, we need to talk about your finances." Those 7 words hit me like a sledgehammer. Not, "How are you feeling about money, Dad?" or, "Is there anything you need help with?" Just a declaration that we needed to talk, like I didn't have a choice in the matter. "Sarah and I have been discussing your situation, and we think it's time for you to stop worrying about all these financial responsibilities. You've worked hard your whole life. You deserve to relax and not stress about bills and investments and all that complicated stuff." He spread papers across my kitchen table, forms, legal documents, bank transfer authorizations. My name was already typed in at the top of each one. "Starting next month, we'll transfer all your money to my account. I'll handle everything, your Social Security, your pension, your savings. I'll pay all your bills, make sure you have everything you need. You won't have to worry about anything anymore." The words hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. Everything you need. Not everything you want, not everything you choose. Everything they decided I needed. I looked at those papers, at my son's expectant face, at the pen he was already holding out to me, and something inside me broke. Not my spirit, my illusions. The beautiful lie I'd been telling myself about what our relationship really was. "For your own good, Dad. You shouldn't have to worry about bills and banking and all that grown-up stuff anymore." Grown-up stuff. Like I was a child. Like the man who raised him, who worked 2 jobs to pay for his college, who taught him how to drive and how to be responsible with money, was now too simple to handle grown-up stuff. But here's what they didn't know about me. Here's what 47 years of working in a factory teaches you. When someone shows you who they really are, you better pay attention. When the machinery starts making a strange noise, you don't ignore it and hope it goes away. You investigate, you prepare, you protect yourself. So I looked at my son, at this man I'd sacrificed everything for, and I smiled. "Yes," I said. "That sounds like a good idea." His face lit up with relief and satisfaction. Sarah called from the living room. "Everything settled in there?" Like they'd just closed a business deal, which I guess they thought they had. "Just need your signature on these forms, Dad, and we'll get everything transferred by the end of the week." "Of course," I said. "Let me look these over first, just to understand what I'm signing." Michael's smile tightened just a little. "Dad, you don't need to worry about the details. I'll handle everything." "I'm sure you will. But humor an old man. Let me read through them tonight, and I'll have them ready for you next Sunday." They left that night thinking they'd won, thinking they'd successfully manipulated the old fool into handing over his life savings. I watched them drive away in their nice car, the one I'd helped them make the down payment on 2 years ago, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. That night I made a decision, not to sign those papers, that was obvious, but to find out exactly what I was dealing with, to test their intentions, to see just how deep this betrayal went. You see, I may be 63, but I'm not stupid, and I'm definitely not helpless. They were about to learn that the hard way. The next morning, I started making phone calls. I called estate sale companies. I called furniture consignment shops. I called a storage unit facility across town. By Wednesday, I had everything arranged. Thursday morning, the movers came. Professional, efficient, quiet. They wrapped and loaded piece after piece of my furniture, my belongings, Everything that made my house look like home. The couch Michael used to nap on as a teenager, the dining room set where we'd shared 1,000 meals, the TV they always complained about, the recliner Sarah claimed every Sunday. Everything went into storage except the absolute essentials: a card table and 2 folding chairs for the kitchen, a sleeping bag and pillow for the bedroom, 1 plate, 1 cup, 1 set of silverware, the bare minimum for survival. I kept the utilities on, kept the house clean, but stripped it down to the bones. If they wanted to see what it looked like when someone couldn't handle their own affairs, I'd show them. If they wanted to treat me like I was incompetent, they could see what incompetence really looked like. But more than that, I wanted to see their reaction. I wanted to know if their first concern would be for my well-being or for their own comfort. I needed to know if they saw me as a father or just as a resource. Sunday came. 5:30, right on schedule. I heard their car in the driveway, heard their footsteps on the porch. They used their key, the one I'd given them for emergencies, and walked right in like they always did. The screams echoed through the empty house. "What the hell happened here?" Sarah's voice was sharp, panicked. "Dad? Dad? Where's all your stuff? Were you robbed?" I walked out from the kitchen, calm as could be. "Hello, Michael. Sarah, right on time." "Dad, what happened? Where's all your furniture? Your TV? Everything's gone." And here's the moment that told me everything I needed to know. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Are you hurt?" Not, "What can we do to help?" Their first concern, their only concern, was about the stuff, about their comfort, about the missing recliner and the missing TV and the missing dinner they were expecting. "Are you hurt, Dad? Did someone break in?" Michael finally asked, but it was an afterthought. His eyes were still scanning the empty living room, calculating losses. "I'm fine," I said, "just making some changes." "Changes? Dad, you can't live like this. Where are you sleeping? Where's your furniture? This is crazy." "I have what I need," I said simply. Sarah was walking around the empty rooms like she was assessing property damage. "How are we supposed to be comfortable here? Where are we supposed to sit? Where's dinner?" And there it was, the truth, laid bare. Not concern for my mental state or my safety or my well-being, just irritation that their comfortable routine had been disrupted, anger that the free meal service had been interrupted. "There's no dinner tonight," I said. "What do you mean there's no dinner? You always make dinner on Sundays." "Not tonight." Michael stepped closer, and I could see the control mask slipping. "Dad, this is exactly why you need me to handle your finances. You're clearly not making good decisions. You can't live like this. This is proof that you need help." Help. There was that word again, the word they used when they meant control. "I think you both should leave now," I said. "Leave? Dad, we can't leave you like this. Look at this place. You've lost your mind." I said leave. They stood there for another few minutes, arguing with me, trying to convince me to explain myself, demanding to know what I'd done with my belongings. But I just stood there, calm and quiet, until finally they left. After they drove away, I sat at my card table in my empty house and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. For the first time in I don't know how long, I wasn't performing. I wasn't trying to make anyone else comfortable. I wasn't bending myself into shapes to please other people. The house was empty, but I wasn't. I was full of purpose. Because now I knew what I was dealing with. Now I had clarity. They didn't see me as a person with autonomy and dignity. They saw me as a problem to be managed, a resource to be controlled. And that changed everything. That night, I started planning. Real planning. Not the passive hoping I'd been doing for years. Not the wishful thinking that maybe they'd change. Maybe they'd start treating me with respect. Strategic planning for how to protect myself from people who saw my love as weakness and my trust as opportunity. The next morning I went to the bank. Not to transfer money to Michael, hell no, but to pull statements. 6 months' worth. Every transaction, every deposit, every withdrawal. I wanted to see exactly what had been happening with my accounts. What I found made my blood run cold. 3 withdrawals I didn't remember making. $500 in January, $300 in February, $700 in March. All from my savings account, all on days when I definitely hadn't been to the bank. All authorized with my PIN, a PIN that only one other person knew. The person I'd given it to for emergencies. The person who'd convinced me it was smart to have someone who could access my account if something happened to me. My son had been stealing from me for months, but that wasn't all. I pulled my credit report next. There it was, clear as day. A credit card I'd never applied for, never received, never used. Opened in December. Balance, $3,200. Address on file, Michael and Sarah's house. He'd opened a credit card in my name and been using it for months. Every dinner out, every weekend purchase, every little luxury, paid for with credit tied to my name, my social security number, my reputation. The hits kept coming. I called the utility company to check on my account. Turns out there was a second electric service in my name. Guess where? Michael's address. He'd been having me pay his electric bill for 8 months without my knowledge. I sat in my car outside the utility office, staring at the paper in my hands, and felt something I hadn't felt since the day my wife died. Betrayal so complete, so thorough, that it felt like physical pain. This wasn't just about money. This was about trust. This was about the fact that the person I loved most in the world had been systematically stealing from me while looking me in the eye every Sunday and pretending to care about my well-being. But you know what? The pain was clarifying. It burned away the last of my illusions, the last of my excuses for his behavior. It turned my sadness into something harder and more useful, determination. I drove home and started a notebook, dates, amounts, account numbers, confirmation numbers from my dispute calls, photos of every document, scans of every statement. If this was war, and it was, then I was going to document every battle. Next stop, the lawyer. I found an elder law attorney who offered free consultations, Martha Chen. Tough as nails, with gray hair and sharp eyes and no patience for bullshit. I laid everything out for her. The financial manipulation, the unauthorized accounts, the pressure to sign over control, the gaslighting, the emotional abuse disguised as concern. She listened without interrupting, took notes, and when I finished, she leaned back in her chair and said, "Mr. Patterson, your son has committed several crimes: identity theft, elder financial abuse, fraud. The question is, what do you want to do about it?" "I want to protect myself," I said. "I want to make sure this never happens again." "Good. Here's what we're going to do." She printed out an action plan. Change all PINs and passwords immediately. Get new debit and credit cards. Freeze my credit report. File fraud alerts with all 3 credit bureaus. Close compromised accounts and open new ones at a bank Michael had never been to. File formal disputes with the credit card company and the utility company. Document everything. Save everything. Trust nothing. Most importantly, she said, do not sign any papers he brings you. Do not give him access to any new accounts. And if he threatens you in any way, and I mean any way, you call the police immediately. I left her office with a plan and a deadline: 1 week to secure my finances, 2 weeks to file all the disputes, 4 weeks to see if Michael would voluntarily make restitution when confronted with the evidence, and if he didn't, well, then we'd see how much he enjoyed explaining his behavior to a judge. The next few days were a blur of phone calls and paperwork. New bank, new account, new everything. I moved every penny I had to an institution 50 miles away, somewhere Michael had never been, somewhere his charm and manipulation couldn't reach. Changed my PIN to something he'd never guess. Changed all my passwords. Got a new debit card, a new credit card through the new bank. Put fraud alerts on everything. Froze my credit so tight that even I'd have trouble accessing it. And then I waited. Tuesday night, my phone rang. Michael. "Dad, I tried to get some cash from your account today to pick up groceries for you, but the card was declined. Did something happen?" "Groceries for me. Right. I'm sure that's what the $700 in March was for. I had some issues with the account, I said. Had to get new cards. Well, when you get it sorted out, can you let me know the new PIN, just in case you need me to help with anything? The audacity was breathtaking. After stealing from me for months, he was asking for access to my new accounts. Like nothing had happened. Like I was still the same naive old man who trusted his word. I don't think that's necessary, I said. Dad, what if there's an emergency? What if something happens to you and I need to access your accounts? I'll handle my own accounts, Michael. There was a pause, a long one. When he spoke again, his voice had changed, harder, less patient. Dad, you're being confused again. This is exactly what we talked about last Sunday. You're not thinking clearly. You need me to help you with this stuff. I'm thinking very clearly. No, you're not. Look what happened with your furniture. You sold everything and now you're living like a homeless person. This is proof that you can't handle your own affairs. I didn't sell my furniture, Michael. Then where is it? Somewhere safe. Another pause, longer this time. Dad, I think we need to have a serious conversation. In person. This weekend. No. What do you mean, no? I mean no. No more in-person meetings. If you want to talk to me, you can call me or email me. But I'm not having you in my house anymore. You can't be serious. I'm very serious. Dad, this is crazy. You're my father. I'm trying to help you. Why are you being so difficult? There it was again. Difficult. Like setting boundaries was a character flaw. Like protecting myself was a mental illness. Because I know what you've been doing, Michael. Silence. Dead silence. For 30 seconds, maybe more. I don't know what you think you know, but I know about the credit card you opened in my name. I know about the electric bill you've been having me pay. I know about the withdrawals from my savings account. I know about all of it. Another silence. Then, Dad, you're confused. You gave me permission for all of that. You asked me to help you with those things. The gaslighting was so automatic, so practiced, that he probably didn't even realize he was doing it anymore. It was just his default response to being caught. I never gave you permission to steal from me. I didn't steal anything. Everything I did was to help you. Do you have any idea how much time and energy I've spent managing your affairs? Do you know how stressful it's been to worry about you all the time? And there it was, the victim narrative. Poor Michael, burdened by having to steal from his father. Poor Michael, stressed out by having to commit fraud. Poor Michael, working so hard to help by helping himself to my money. Those accounts are closed, Michael. The credit card is canceled. The disputes are filed. You need to pay back every penny you took. I'm not paying back anything. That money was spent on you, for you, because of you. You owe me for everything I've done. I hung up. He called back immediately. I didn't answer. He called 6 more times that night, left 4 voicemails, each one escalating from reasonable to pleading to threatening. Dad, let's talk about this like adults. Dad, please, you're misunderstanding the situation. Let me explain. Dad, you're making a big mistake. You don't understand how this works. Men your age who fight their families end up in very bad places. That last one I saved. Threats disguised as concern. Perfect evidence for what might come next. The next morning, I called Martha Chen and played her the voicemails. We need to document everything, she said. Email, voicemail, text messages, everything. And I want you to be very careful. When financial abuse gets exposed, sometimes it escalates. I want you to consider staying somewhere else for a few days. But I wasn't leaving my house. This was my home, my sanctuary, my castle. If anyone was going to be uncomfortable, it wasn't going to be me. Instead, I called my neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez. She's 71, sharp as a tack, and has lived next door for 15 years. I told her what was happening, showed her the evidence, asked her to keep an eye on things. She was horrified and furious. I always thought something was off about that boy, she said. The way he talks to you, like you're stupid. I've seen him bring his laundry over here for you to do. A 34-year-old man bringing his dirty clothes to his father. I should have said something. You couldn't have known, I said. But I could see. We all could see. The way he treats you like hired help instead of his father. The way he never brings anything when he comes for dinner. The way he talks about this house like it's already his. We all saw it, Patrick. We just didn't want to interfere. She made copies of all my documents, stored them in her safe, and gave me her spare key. If anything happens, if they try anything, you get to my house and we call the police. No questions asked. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I wasn't alone in this. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. No calls from Michael, no texts, no surprise visits. It felt like the eye of a hurricane, peaceful, but with the promise of worse weather coming. Then Sarah called. "Patrick, we need to talk." She'd never called me Patrick before, always Dad or Mr. Patterson. The use of my first name was a signal that the family facade was dropping. "What can I do for you, Sarah?" "You can stop this nonsense and listen to reason. Michael is beside himself. He's trying to help you and you're treating him like a criminal." "He is a criminal." "That's not true, and you know it. Everything he did was because you asked him to. You're just confused about the details." "I'm not confused about anything." "Yes, you are, and frankly, your behavior lately has been very concerning. The furniture, the paranoia, the accusations. We think you might be developing some cognitive issues." Cognitive issues. There it was. The nuclear option. If they couldn't convince me I was wrong, they'd convince everyone else I was crazy. "I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years," I said. "Patrick, we love you. We want to help you. But if you keep going down this path, if you keep making these false accusations and refusing help, we might have to look into other options, legal options, for your own protection." The threat was crystal clear. "Sign over your money voluntarily, or we'll have you declared incompetent and take it anyway." "You do what you think is best, Sarah. I'll do the same." "This doesn't have to be a fight, Patrick. We can work this out. Just come to dinner this Sunday. Let's talk like a family." "No." "Why are you being so stubborn?" "Because I'm not your victim anymore." I hung up and immediately called Martha Chen. "They're escalating," I told her. "Threats about legal action, competency hearings, the whole thing." "Expected," she said. "When financial abusers get cut off from their source of money, they usually try to regain control through intimidation. The good news is that threats like this often backfire. Judges don't like it when families try to weaponize the court system." "What's our next move?" "We file suit, civil court. We make this public. We put them on the defensive instead of letting them attack you. And we do it now, before they have time to file any petition questioning your competency." "Do it." The papers were filed Thursday morning. Fraud, identity theft, elder financial abuse, intentional infliction of emotional distress. We weren't asking for much, just full restitution of the stolen money, plus fees, plus damages for the credit repair I'd have to do. But we were asking for it publicly. Court records are public records. Anyone could look up the case, read the filings, see exactly what Michael had been doing to his own father. The process server found him at work Friday afternoon. I wasn't there, obviously, but I heard about it later from Martha. Apparently he went white as a sheet when he was handed the papers, asked if he could read them in private, and then disappeared into the bathroom for 20 minutes. That evening, my phone started ringing. Not Michael, his friends, his co-workers, his neighbors, people who'd seen the court filing, people who were shocked and confused and wanting to know if it was true. I didn't answer most of the calls, but I saved all the voicemails. Evidence of how the community was reacting, evidence of the damage to his reputation that he'd brought on himself. Saturday morning, Sarah posted on Facebook. "Sometimes you have to protect your peace from toxic family members, even when it's heartbreaking. Sending love to everyone who's had to make difficult decisions about relationships that no longer serve them. Boundaries. Your toxic family. Protect your peace." Toxic family members. That's what I was now. The man who'd raised their son, who'd paid for their dinners, who'd helped with their down payment, who'd trusted them with his life savings. I was toxic for refusing to be stolen from anymore. But you know what? I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself on social media. I didn't try to tell my side of the story in the court of public opinion. I had a real court for that now, with real evidence and real consequences. Let them spin their narrative. The truth was in the bank records, the credit reports, the utility bills. The truth was documented, time-stamped, and undeniable. Their story was just words. Sunday came and went. No visitors, no demands for dinner. Just peace and quiet, and the satisfaction of knowing I was finally protecting myself. Monday morning, Michael's lawyer called Martha. "They want to settle," she told me. "They're claiming it was all a misunderstanding, but they're willing to discuss terms." "What kind of terms?" "They're offering to pay back the money they can't deny taking, the credit card charges and the utility bills. But they want you to drop the savings account withdrawal claims, and they don't want to admit to any intentional wrongdoing." "No. That's what I figured you'd say. They also want any settlement to be confidential. No public records, no admissions, nothing that could damage Michael's reputation further." "Absolutely not." "Also what I figured. So we go to trial?" "We go to trial. But here's the thing about bullies. When you stand up to them, when you show them you're not afraid of a fight, they usually back down. The threatened trial never happened. Instead, over the next 2 weeks, the settlement offers got progressively better. First, full restitution, no admission of guilt, confidential settlement. Then, full restitution, plus attorney's fees, no admission of guilt, confidential settlement. Then, full restitution, plus attorney's fees plus damages, minimal admission of mistakes, confidential settlement. Finally, full restitution plus attorney's fees plus damages plus credit repair costs, public admission of unauthorized access, payment plan over 6 months, and, the part I insisted on, a written statement that I was mentally competent and fully capable of managing my own affairs. We took the final offer, not because I needed the money, though it was rightfully mine, not because I wanted revenge, though I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some satisfaction in it, but because I wanted accountability. I wanted consequences. I wanted Michael to face the truth about what he'd done and take responsibility for it. The first payment hit my account 3 weeks later, $2,437, the exact amount of the fraudulent credit card charges, plus interest, plus fees. I didn't spend it right away. I just let it sit there, proof that I'd been right, proof that I'd been strong enough to fight back, proof that standing up for myself had been worth it. Eventually, I used some of the money to buy new furniture. Not expensive stuff, not a showroom display, just comfortable pieces that suited me. A couch I liked, not one chosen to impress visitors. A dining table for 2, not 8. A TV that worked fine, regardless of what anyone else thought about the picture quality. I kept most of my belongings in storage, though. Turns out I liked the simplicity of fewer things, less clutter, more space. I liked the feeling of freedom that came with not being attached to so much stuff. And I started thinking about what I actually wanted for the rest of my life. Not what Michael thought I should want. Not what would make other people comfortable, but what would make me happy. I thought about moving somewhere smaller, maybe closer to the water. I thought about getting a dog. I thought about taking a class, learning something new, meeting people who saw me as a person instead of a resource. For the first time in years, the future felt like mine to choose. 3 months after the settlement was finalized, Michael called. "Dad, it's me. I know who it is. I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened, about us, about our relationship." "Okay. I want to apologize. I think there were some misunderstandings, some miscommunications. I never meant for things to get so complicated." Misunderstandings. Miscommunications. Never an admission that he'd stolen from me, lied to me, manipulated me. just passive language that made it sound like we'd both equally contributed to some unfortunate confusion. "I accept your apology," I said. "Good, good. So maybe we can start over? Maybe we can put all this behind us and rebuild our relationship?" "No." "What do you mean, no?" "I mean no, Michael. We can't start over. We can't rebuild. The relationship we had was based on you taking advantage of me, and I'm not going back to that. Dad, I know I made some mistakes, but you didn't make mistakes. You made choices. You chose to steal from me. You chose to lie to me. You chose to manipulate me. You chose to threaten me when I tried to protect myself. Those weren't mistakes. They were deliberate decisions that showed me exactly who you are. That's not fair. People change. People grow. Can't you forgive me?" "I have forgiven you, Michael. But forgiveness doesn't mean trust. Forgiveness doesn't mean giving you another chance to hurt me. Forgiveness means I'm not carrying anger about what you did, but it doesn't mean I'm pretending it didn't happen." "So what? You're just going to cut me out of your life forever?" "I'm going to protect myself. If that means cutting you out, then yes. I spent too many years making myself small so you could feel big. I spent too many years accepting less than I deserved because I was afraid of losing you. But I lost you anyway, didn't I? I lost you the moment you decided my money was more important than my dignity." "Dad, please. I'm your son." "Being my son doesn't give you the right to abuse me. Being my son doesn't mean I owe you my independence, my autonomy, or my financial security. Being my son means you should have protected me, not preyed on me. I never preyed on you. You stole from me for months while looking me in the eye and pretending to care about my well-being. What would you call that? Silence. I wish you well, Michael. I hope you learn from this. I hope you grow from this. I hope you never treat anyone else the way you treated me. But I won't be your victim anymore. I won't be your target anymore. I won't be your resource anymore. Dad. Goodbye, Michael." I hung up and blocked his number. It wasn't easy. He was still my son. I still loved him. But I loved myself more. Finally, after 63 years, I loved myself enough to choose my own peace over his comfort. I loved myself enough to demand respect instead of begging for crumbs of affection. That was 6 months ago. I haven't heard from him since, and I'm okay with that. Better than okay, actually. I'm free. I ended up buying a small house near the lake. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a little porch where I can sit in the morning with my coffee and watch the water. It's mine. All mine. No one else has a key. No one else has access to my accounts. No one else gets to make decisions about my life. I got the dog I wanted. A 10-year-old golden retriever named Max that nobody else wanted because he was too old, too slow, too set in his ways. Perfect for a 63-year-old man who was also too old, too slow, and too set in his ways. We suit each other just fine. I joined a book club at the library, started volunteering at the food bank on Saturdays, made friends with my neighbors, real friends, people who like my company instead of my cooking, people who see me as a person instead of a convenience. And you know what the best part is? Sunday dinners are mine now. Sometimes I cook something elaborate just because I want to. Sometimes I eat cereal for dinner because I can. Sometimes I invite Mrs. Rodriguez over and we share a bottle of wine and complain about our children. Sometimes I don't eat dinner at all. I just sit on my porch with Max and watch the sunset over the water. Every Sunday is exactly what I choose it to be. No expectations, no obligations, no performances. Just peace. People ask me sometimes if I regret cutting Michael out of my life, if I miss him, if I wish things could have been different. Of course I wish things could have been different. I wish I'd raised a son who saw me as more than a resource. I wish I'd had a son who respected my autonomy and honored my dignity. I wish I'd had a son who loved me enough to treat me well. But I didn't. I had a son who saw my love as weakness and my trust as opportunity. I had a son who thought being family meant never having to face consequences for his actions. So I made a choice. I chose myself. I chose my peace. I chose my dignity. I chose to stop enabling his bad behavior by pretending it was acceptable. Some people call that selfish. Some people say you should forgive family no matter what they do. Some people think I should have given him another chance, should have tried harder to work things out. But here's what I learned. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. Protecting yourself isn't cruel. And you don't owe anyone unlimited chances to hurt you, not even family, especially not family. Blood doesn't give someone the right to abuse you. Love doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. And being a parent doesn't mean sacrificing your own well-being for the comfort of an adult child who refuses to take responsibility for their actions. I'm 63 years old, and for the first time in my adult life, I'm living for myself, making my own choices, setting my own priorities, protecting my own interests. It's not selfish. It's healthy. It's not cruel. It's necessary. It's not wrong. It's the most right thing I've ever done. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been in a situation where someone was using your love against you, where someone was treating your kindness as weakness, where someone was demanding your resources while disrespecting your autonomy, I want you to know that you have choices. You have power. You have the right to protect yourself. Document everything. Trust your instincts. Set boundaries. Enforce consequences. Don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking that protecting yourself is wrong. And remember, love doesn't hurt, love doesn't steal, love doesn't manipulate, love doesn't threaten. If someone is doing those things to you in the name of love, then what they're offering isn't love at all. It's control, and you don't have to accept it. You deserve better. You deserve respect. You deserve dignity. You deserve to live your life on your own terms, regardless of your age, regardless of your family situation, regardless of what other people think you should do. So if this story resonated, like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what boundary you're setting for yourself today. Because boundaries aren't walls, they're gates. They let the right people in and keep the wrong people out, and you're the only one who gets to decide which is which. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for witnessing my truth. And thank you for reminding an old man that his voice still matters, his choices still count, and his life is still his own.